Hey, welcome to the second installment of the 12 Principles of Permaculture. This is just a mini podcast style series that I'm doing here on Instagram. It's where I discuss David Holmgren's, one of the founders of Permaculture, his 12 principles and how we perceive those and how we implement them here on our homestead. So today we're talking about principle number 2, which is catching and storing energy. One of the first things we did when we moved into the property was prepare for animals by installing fencing. And I wanted solar fencing, meaning we have polybraid wire connected to posts, and that all comes back to and is charged by a solar charger. On our 1775 homestead, we live in an area where we have a lot of finicky electrical and power lines. So that means we are prone to power outages. I needed something that was going to be able to be reliable regardless of whether or not we had power. So the second thing that we did is just recently, and I mentioned it in my previous podcast style post for principle number 1, was installing a water catchment pond. So I'm looking for ways to catch and store water, especially as our summer months seem to be getting drier. We can't rely on rainfall as much as we did when we first moved to the property about 7 years ago. So the catchment pond is at a base of a hill, and it allows water runoff and obviously rainfall to accumulate within a small pond. And this small pond, we just had our first significant rainfall post-pond installation last week, and it did wonderfully. We caught so much water, and I'm using that to irrigate my nearby food forest. We'll be installing another pond actually today. So I want to talk a little bit about this because I don't think you need a roof full of solar panels in order to catch and store energy. And quite frankly, we can't afford that. What we can do is take small steps on our farms, homes, and homesteads, and garden spaces just in order to try to reduce our reliance on non-renewable energy and resources. So looking for solar options when they're available. If I decide to do a pond bubbler, it will be solar charged using the solar fencing, catching water. In the garden space that I have, I catch gray water. Rain barrels are great. So just thinking about some of those options, incorporating wind if you can, etc. Okay, thank you so much for joining me for this quick second installment. I will continue to post regular reels and content on my feed as I sprinkle in these podcast style posts. Stay tuned for our next episode where we discuss Principle 3.